rotate your phone. Oh, does it really want it to be? I think we'll keep it this way. Hopefully this works. I would like to keep it horizontal and not vertical. Hello, my name is Brian Morgan. I'm a Chicago-based artist. I'm starting about 5 minutes early here to give people, if anybody wishes to sign on and join me for a live tour of my studio, Chicago's West Side. We're gonna let the IT folks / the gallery make sure everything's running correctly here, and I'll be back with you at exactly 12. Be right back. Here we can, how about we look at a little art? Guess we just had to wait for the lawn mowing guy to finish. So hello again, my name is Brian Morgan. I'm a Chicago artist represented by Jackson Young Gallery, and today they asked me to host their live artist, visit the studio, visit our home. Very creative idea they had during this coronavirus time. So go ahead. My wife is, Marianne is our photographer today, so she's holding the camera for me.
Okay, I'd like to switch it so that I can see.
Okay, we're gonna do a quick switch camera view just so that she can see what's happening through the camera. So bear with me on that one. All right, I'm gonna turn around.
All right,
Okay,
now we're
here you
much
go.
better, thanks.
All right, you're welcome. So this is our house. Like a lot of artists in small or big spaces where we have storage issues. So I have some older paintings. I thought maybe we would just show some of the old oil work before we go to the newer work downstairs in the studio. So in the dining room, I have these giant pieces that really have no place to go other than a beautiful wall. This is an old piece based off of a song by Tom Waits called "Misery is the River of the World." Everybody row. So that's the title of the piece. Kind of the Lemmings principle. Everybody following along blindly. See a lot of that these days. One guy with a little moment of critical thinking right here. He stopped rowing, and he's thinking that maybe this is a bad idea, because if you know anything about boats, they're rowing that way, right into hell, or a flaming river. Either way, bad choices. We have this guy over here, two gentlemen. They look to me like, veterans, and not very well taken care of veterans, as is often the case. So with the super fun Aldi bag, it used to be kind of ubiquitous. Aldi's really come a long way in the last 10, 20 years, changing their image, but when I was younger, it seemed to me like it was the choice bag of anybody who was really down and just needed a cheap, sturdy bag. They were very strong. You bought those for like 25 cents, I think. So the Aldi bag was like the homeless man, like kind of signature to me. So I used it a lot in my earlier work. These guys, obviously doing the best they can to survive without much help. Help the veterans more. We can wrap around back into the other room. That painting that was sitting on the wall is a newer piece. I've been painting on wood with acrylic for a little over 10 years now. I needed to get away from the oil on the canvas because it was more, my style is more of a drawing style and more fluid, and the oil on the canvas kind of took too long and it just wasn't really the right medium. It took me a while to figure that out. But here we have a piece. This is based off of a book by Ransom Riggs called Mrs. Peregrine's Peculiar Children. And I titled the piece Peculiar Children. They're up there hiding from these little people that are looking for them, obviously. They are protected by this bird. In his stories, the birds are women, and they're actually humans that transform into birds. They're called inbreds or something fun like that. So she's protecting these children, but she just looks like a little pigeon up there, and nobody notices as they hide. Kind of falls in with my love of pigeons and birds. I paint almost as many birds as I do old bald men. I have one over here that was gonna just be tossed out, but my wife loved it so much we ended up framing it and putting it in just, an old found discarded frame. But it's something like the Almighty Pigeon, I think. Never really got the proper title, but we love her sitting here in the foyer. And I guess it brings me to the opposite side. There's my grandfather's work. He too was an artist. Also painted a lot of birds. I always thought they were seagulls, but there's some kind of a pipit or something. Let me see, I think he wrote it on the back. It's a black-bellied plover and a willet. This was made in 1970 on a Grandpa Morgan. I think he and I somehow both shared affinity for birds. It's kind of funny. I didn't get to hang out with him much as an adult and didn't discover that until he had already passed, but I love the history of seeing his old work, comparing it to mine. Here's a fun one. It was a blooper. I did a series of Chicago streets and a portrait of who they were named after. And this was one of my favorites, unfortunately. This is Dr. Halstead. I assumed that the Halstead Street was named after the man who came up with the mammogram and saved so many people's lives. Just be deserving of having his own street. But unfortunately, our Halstead Street is named after some real estate guy who simply gave a lot of money to the right person, and now, there's a name there. My wife is the historian, and I was too eager to get started on this one and didn't wait for her to double check my incorrect history there. But I get to keep it because I can't really sell it. Doesn't make sense, so now it's ours. I love it. This kind of shows a bit of the style of the pen and ink here. You can see this is ink drawing, going over the acrylic. This isn't as loose as gestural because I really was kind of into this idea of the graphic map and some more harder graphic elements. But we digress. We can go down to the studio in the basement and check out some of the actual work. It is worth noting that my studio is in the basement, and some people think, why would you work in a dark basement? You have no natural light. For me, I've always kind of painted at night after work, etc. It's always been in an apartment. I've never had terrific outdoor light, and I never relied on it. I've always used incandescents and such, hanging from the ceiling in some form. So we go down to this basement that was such a wonderful find. In searching for a house, I wanted an unfinished one, and so many basements get finished, but I needed a place to spill ink and drop stuff and not worry about it. So we head on down to it's not really that, it's also a studio. One of the favorite parts too, when I walked down the stairs for the first time with the realtor, I saw this sink. Dreamed of having a sink like this. These are beautiful. If you ever have one in a house, don't ever get rid of it. They're irreplaceable. So we come over this side. This is where all the battles are fought and won. We got some printing going on right now. I have a series called The Hot Butcher. It was commissioned for a friend for the people at the Hot Butcher Brewery. But I do have a number of these heading over to the gallery, so they're also going to be for sale at Jackson Young. We're running, the edition right now is getting up to number 30 through 35. I have a beautiful printer over here, which takes care of all of this printing needs. It can be quite a struggle. These things are quite temperamental, but as long as you keep it running, it's like it works really well. Like a diesel engine, it's always got to be running, and it'll do well. If you stop running it, and it clogs up, and it's a 2-day battle of cleaning inks out.
Do you want to turn the music down a little?
Yeah, let me turn down the. Sorry, I got some tunes going in the background.
And you can check for questions too.
Oh yeah, let me check and see if there's questions. I think are they on the other side of the phone, or should I open up the? Bear with me for a second. You go to the internet. Should have done that down here already. Set it up. Log it out.
Do you have a favorite piece? Actually, somebody says, nice studio space. Okay, I'll read them from the back here. How's that?
Oh, okay. Yeah, that works.
Go ahead.
I think I just got it though here. Okay, there's me upside down. And Brian Morgan is live. All right.
All right.
Just click on that. Okay, there's you moving around.
All right.
All right. I don't see a question here.
I've got it.
You didn't pop up. But do I have a favorite piece? Yes, actually, this guy right here. And oddly enough, this is just a print of it, but this is the first piece I had done on canvas since 2010. And so I just finished him, and he's at the gallery now still. I don't think he's even made it to the wall yet. He's so fresh. I call him my guardian angel. And he actually came from kind of an ongoing theme in my head. This is him and his buddy. It might be hard to see with the, if there's a glare on it.
Is everything running sideways?
Are you sideways? Yeah, turn the camera. Oh my gosh, is everything running sideways, everybody? I can't see it. It's only running half screen, it looks like.
Which way is better, vertical or horizontal? Let's see if people say.
Oh, there's a lag behind.
Yeah,
Look at
okay,
that.
we'll go ahead. We're learning.
Yeah, okay, there seems to be a bit of a lag. So maybe I'll just leave this right here, and
Yeah.
we'll come over and take a look at it. So this is the skinny dude and the guardian angel guy. These are actually these two dudes that sit on a bench. He didn't have any wings, but the larger guy would just sit there looking kind of patient, while the skinny dude would just be ranting and pointing his finger and yelling at buses, and it just they reminded me of like a Ed Norton and Ralph Cramden kind of a set, and he had this patience of a saint, it seemed like, hanging out with his buddy. They both had beers cans around them, like they're just having a good old time at 12 o'clock in the afternoon, and I really enjoyed them. So he's been stuck with me for a couple of paintings. I even have an old sketch that I just found of the same theme when I was working on it. And this kind of gets into the heart of how I need to keep the ink and the loose drawing, because the drawings can be so fun and loose, and I really want to try to keep that loose gestural quality alive in the finished painting.
When did you start changing from oil to this kind of paint and washy type of?
10 years ago, it was 2010. Even kind of more like 2008, I guess. It was when we had our son. One of my considerations of being a father, my home studio was full of oil paint and a lot of toxic chemicals, and so also decided maybe acrylic was a safer thing to have in the house, but more so it was the opportunity at that point to be able to paint more quickly and kind of get this gestural quality down. It started with actually a bunch of work for a show at Jackson Young Gallery called Momentum Wild, where I did, I think, 10 or 11 paintings of bicyclists, and they were all moving quickly and just had a lot of gestural qualities to them. I don't know if I have any other prints laying around here, but here's one. That was called Pigeon Run. Again with the birds and the bicycles and the bald guys. It's kind of an ongoing theme. I don't really do it intentionally. It's just I always end up drawing these bald heads. It just looks so much cooler to me. Like I'll try to put hair on a character and it'll be all goofy, like a bad haircut. So you just kind of cut it off.
Where do you find your inspiration for these guys?
People outside on the streets. I used to actually try to catch pictures of them a lot, and I come home and draw them, and I find sometimes it's even more fun now to just sketch right into the sketchbook, keep a little one in the pocket that you can just take a quick note of somebody you saw on the street. It is a lot of older folks that kind of inspire me. I just saw this guy shuffling across the street the other day. It was a nice warm day, but he had I guess it's a little over a month ago because we were out and about. How time flies here with coronavirus. But he had this old winter coat on. It was one of those beautiful days with thick stocking cap, and he had his cane, and he was just moving across the street. And there's just something beautiful about that to me that I think there's like a hidden dignity in these guys that I like to just draw, and I sort of imagine who they are. There's this guy right here that I just started yesterday. I've been short of the wood. I can't go out to the hardware stores and select new panels, so this is actually previously was the attic door about 2 weeks ago. It was covering literally just a hole roughly cut out in the wall. Somebody needed access in there apparently at some point, and then it was covered with this. So I made a beautiful door to replace that thing, but this was left over, and I thought the second I took it off there, I'm like, this could be, it kind of felt like something Basquiat would paint on, so I was like, oh, maybe I should do something on here that would be really cool. We'll see. I kind of did a color palette on it, which is a normal thing to sort of do, just like roughly think about what I'm going to use ahead of time, just like any kind of story one would write. There's a little, you start off and you make edits and then you come up with a finished piece at the end. I thought I could actually do a little painting on it. I kind of think the phthalo blue is going to be a fun, darkness to just set up some immediate, grounds of tonality for it. The cool part about the acrylic paints that I kind of fell in love with right away is how fast it dries and how quickly you can then go over something. So when you're laying down a big swatch of it, you only have to wait a few minutes before you can then go back in and work it again.
I noticed that you have a lot of mirrors around.
Yeah, I do. The mirrors is for modeling. I keep them loose around here, so I'll set them up just for, like how, just like right here. So last night when I was drawing, figuring out how is he holding that bird, he's kind of coming around, and so I just turn to this mirror here and I look at how he's like holding the little bird, and then I use that to then model the hands on it. So the mirrors are very helpful. I'm gonna make some of this up here. Thank you all for chiming in. I was kind of surprised. I didn't think anybody would really be there. I'd be talking to a wall, but this is fun. I really appreciate it. So this is just going to be really loose because I want to have, like I said, this piece of wood was kind of inspired by Basquiat. He's so abstract and loose and fun. I'm not quite as really abstract is key, but one thing when I'm painting backgrounds is I try to make it look like it's not going, like I didn't just paint around that. I do use a masking tape, which is very, very convenient because sometimes if you're splashing a lot of stuff, one of my favorite artists is Ralph Steadman, and I love how he throws his ink around so much. It gives me a big thrill. So I'll use, like right here, these little birds on the wall. That was the mask for this painting. And so in order to get those splatters around them so they would look like they're just all on the ground, I put that mask over the bird so I could throw that ink over the finished paint. But that stuff's really fun. It's it comes in a little roll. I think they use it for motorcycle or just like painting. I've seen like in their ad they show it stretched over the gas tank of a motorcycle as they're painting some sweet pinstripes or something. But it works just as well on really any flat surface, I think. And then I like to always kind of keep things balanced as I'm working, so I just keep moving around. This darkness over here balances over here with the other side of it. All right. Cool. So he's moving along a little. The ink that I use is just a nice India ink that they call waterproof. Apparently some of it's not waterproof and that stuff bleeds really fast. This stuff really isn't waterproof either, it still bleeds. But it is much more workable and super fun. I just get little shot glass plastic cup things because you only use so much at a time, just enough to get that pen. I use these fun old-fashioned pens, and let's get fresh. We could do it. I could draw on it just a little bit too. So just enough to cover up the nib. But let's wait, and I'm gonna move it over to this thing. This big space over here shares the cutting for all of the prints, but it's also the art table, and it's fabulous old art table too that we received as a gift from my wife's old boss, Robin Doutridge. Thank you, Robin.
Colleen asks, do other mediums of art inspire you? Music?
Oh yeah. So like I'm listening to Miles Davis Center Jazz Pandora station right now that I really love. I get more into the more. I don't like a lot of vocals when I'm painting. The music is really has a lot of imagery to me, as the trumpets are dancing up and down and the violins, whatever, are playing. I see almost like when we were growing up, or my generation in the 70s and 80s, watching Tom and Jerry. It was all classical composers playing all of the music, and there were no words, and the cat just chased the mouse right into the wall, and the cymbals crashed, and I think that kind of stuck with me. So whenever I hear classical music or jazz, it's just very full of imagery. So it helps me concentrate on the image I got in my head while I'm working on it. Let me throw my cover board down here. Part of the wainscoting left over from the bathroom remodel that also served as the new attic door. And then these guys. I made these from River's little toddler bed. That's our son. there were slats on the base. And so this way I can kind of angle depending on the way I want.
So you don't use a traditional easel?
I don't really at all use a traditional easel anymore. I think years of working in really tiny studio space, I'd use this in one form or another forever, just right up against the wall. For a little while, I couldn't put it against the wall, so I did have a back on it. But it goes from there, or it lays flat, because when you're doing the ink, it needs to be flat or just slightly tilted. Because that way, like right now, the ink is going to drip a little bit if I'm watching. It's a really heavy piece of wood. I don't know why they chose to put this on the wall. I guess nobody could bash through it. So that's cool. And now I figure, why not just have some fun? This is my favorite part. Like, you got kind of an idea of color. I'm just gonna draw a little bit on him and like use some of this ink. Start right there. It falls right off of the pen sometimes, and so you just have to work with that. It's like, oh, all right. Chose to start at the bottom of his ear. Getting old, you gotta take your glasses on and off all the time. I seem to leave my eyeballs all clear a lot, and it's like the having no pigment on the inside, like just the brightness of the canvas or whatever it be coming out from in the eye. It really makes their eyes to me seem like they're brighter, and so I like it when I put pupils in there sometimes. It ruins the whole thing. I do use them occasionally, of course, but I try to make it like the idea of the pupil so you see where the person's looking at, but still to keep that light in the eye is always something I'm trying to do. And some of the eyes I've drawn in the past have been so worried away. So I liked about the wood is I could sand it down and get rid of it and bring it back in there and work it. Those are the battles that you lose. Sometimes it just works, sometimes it totally doesn't. But it's fun to go with those accidents and just keep moving along. I think really any medium lends itself well for that one, whether you're oil painting or acrylic painting or using ink or using computer. You can always Apple Z and make your art change back to something else. But with these guys, you can't quite Apple Z it, but you can go with what happened and keep the original idea flowing.
Can you talk a little bit about your woodwork and wood choice and?
Oh, yeah. There's definitely part of being able to make things is having a good shop. Another reason I fell in love with this house when we were looking at it, it not only had this part of the basement, but over here, there is outlets all over in the ceiling up here. The previous guy also had some type of a shop down here, and it's really, really great. This is, just enough workspace for me. I'm working on this is upstairs molding for the son's bedroom, replacing the window. A lot of this month of being off, I've taken actually to just do a lot of remodeling projects that needed to get done and haven't had time to get to. So after I finished the last paintings, I turned it into the gallery. It was only a couple of weeks and then this all happened. So I'm just like, I'm gonna knock some lists off. One of the things I've been wanting to do, and I had to bring it back inside unfortunately because apparently this is a favorite for yellow jackets, but I made this birdhouse. I'm hoping for some sparrows. They have a nice perch up here for landing on, and then two little annex perches too, which sort of just hold in the bottom. That just punches out for cleaning if ever it needs to be cleaned out. Say one sparrow family moves away, gotta clean it up for the new sparrow family. I was enjoying this idea so much. Let me bring in a little made a little model of it, and I thought it would be fun to do it, that it just comes out of one flat. That's hard to see. There you go. Out of one flat sheet of paper. It seemed like something that could be a little punch out, but then it goes pretty easily into a birdhouse. And just tuck in the chimney, and there it is. I could figure out how to put a perch sticking off the front there, but maybe you just get a toothpick from home and you're all set. So yeah, the wood shop's fun. I do all the woodwork. Most of my paintings are on a wood panel, and then I use usually like a pine or a cedar rail to put on the back of it, so that they have about a 2-inch profile off of the wall, somewhere between 1 and 2 inches. This piece is going to go as is with just hooks in the back of it. I figured because it's pretty heavy, and it'll need those super fun extra hooks that Jackson Young Gallery has for heavy pieces.
How do you usually pick out your pieces of wood?
That is why now we're going to play with this one just for fun. I usually go to at least 1 or 2 or sometimes 3 hardware stores. There's even this place called, they're off of Western Avenue by Diversey Wood World. And they, of course, they're expensive, but they'll always have it if I can't find it at the Home Depot or Menards or something. But I just go into their plywood sheet area, and I just pull tons of them out and look. I kind of have the idea of the image that I want to put on it, so I'm looking for the grain on the wood. Here's this fun one. It's really small, but it's one of those leftover pieces where the grain worked well. This is Dirty Pete. He's a pigeon that a friend of mine, Colleen Blackburn, took a picture of. I think you're in there, Colleen, so hello. You inspired this one because you took a picture of Dirty Pete down in the Four Seasons loading dock area. I think he lives on top of a rat trap, and he's one of those down and out guys. I like the underdogs. Thought he was pretty sweet. He's actually the inspiration for the little bird in the painting I'm working on right now as well. A nice little dirty, ragged pigeon. But I digress. The wood grain, as you can see, just nicely flows. Like he's kind of standing there looking out. Almost looks like a window. But I'll look for just the right grain for where the head and the body's going to be, and see that it flows through. Sometimes I get so lucky that like the grain goes right up through the fingertips, or perfectly creates the line of the cheek or something like that. Oftentimes I end up painting over it somehow anyway, though you can't see it. But it was like the image, the person was there in the wood, and if I can see that, then I know I can make the painting right. So that's usually how the selection goes. I have the next painting I've been waiting to work on is I'm going to do a portrait of Romero Gonzalez. He was the activist, environmentalist who was protecting the monarch butterfly refuge down in Mexico, and was murdered about 2 or 3 months ago. He's really cool, I think. I mean, he's from a family of loggers in a small town where everybody was logging, and it's just a way of life, like coal miners, like these people who just don't know any way out. How do you stop doing the only resource you have for money around? And he said, let's just have a butterfly sanctuary, and we can have like tourism money or something. And that was starting to work. It was actually legally, it was a butterfly sanctuary. It was protecting. The laws were on his side, but I don't think they really know who murdered him, but we can guess. And I just figured he should be honored. So I want to do a portrait of him. He's going to be with all of his butterflies. I got to get that nice piece of wood. I have to be able to go shop for it. So I'm going to wait a little while before I go out in the public, because I'm becoming quite the agoraphobic artist. I'm loving being in my house and not leaving it. So I don't know. Yeah, that's the wood selection process. Cap on that before we have big mistakes. Ooh, check it out. Big mistake. Speaking of, this is the reason I wanted this unfinished basement, because sometimes when you make a mistake like that, trying to clean up all that wet ink, it would have just smeared and gotten even worse. So I let it go, and I could. But yeah, I don't know. Are there any questions that I haven't answered, or
I think you answered all of them
cool?
for the most part.
Really appreciate people chiming in. It's awfully heartwarming. Thank you.
Yeah.
Humbled. Appreciate it. Thank you all. Visit Jackson Young Gallery. I am going to give 15% off any prints that anybody wants to buy. Right now there is a code. I think it's just my name, Brian, in all capital letters. So if you want to order anything online, I know Chris has still been, managing, doing what he can. I think some things can still get out. I'm not sure, but that'd be fun. Like I say, these hot butcher ones are going to the
Oh, yeah.
gallery pretty soon. I'll drop those off next time I do try to go outside.
Nice.
And that's it. I appreciate y'all for showing up. Thank you.
Of course, we don't know actually how to stop this, so.
I'll try to figure that out too.